Welcome. I just want to talk about how the Bruins fared against the Carolina Hurricanes in the first round. Um, I was debating on taking this video a few ways. I'm kind of just going to do a brief little summary, as I did with the Wild Blue series. No board. I want to kind of dive into their cap situation and kind of what the future would look like for the Bruins, but I want to do that in a separate video, and I want to lay everything out. And I know that's going to be a more intense deep dive. So I'm going to do that sometime soon because I like looking at that stuff. But let's talk about Bruins Carolina. I'm just going to come out and say it. Carolina played horrible in Boston. They didn't play well. They didn't play their game. I don't want to say, well, horrible might be a little too aggressive. They didn't play well and they didn't play their game. You had one game going against Boston because of a power play and then a challenged goal by Brindamore on the Hurricanes that didn't go their way, leading to another power play, leading to another goal from the Bruins. So that was a game in Boston right there. But what it comes down to with Boston, as it has all season, is depth scoring. They don't have it. They don't. Brad Marchand was the highlight of the Bruins. Bergeron played well. DeBrusk played very well too. DeBrusk didn't show up on the score sheet as much. But that's kind of where the scoring stopped. You didn't see much from the second line with Haula, Taylor Hall, and Pastrnak. They didn't do a whole lot. Honestly, I think the Hurricanes shut that line down pretty well. You had the Jordan Staal line playing against Bergeron. Bergeron's line. That's Carolina's shutdown line. And dating back to I don't know. I feel like Bergeron and Jordan Staal have been in the league like 20 years at this point. But dating back to their first few matchups, Jordan Staal has always had Bergeron's number in the faceoff circle. It's the one guy Bergeron cannot beat in the faceoff dot is Jordan Staal. It's Bergeron's kryptonite, and if it works, why change it? So that's what the Hurricanes did. That's why they were successful at shutting down that top line of the Bruins at home. Obviously, the home team has last change, so you can get the matchups you want on the ice. But the Bruins needed depth scoring, any other line, and no one else showed up. They paid Coyle $5.25 million a year for God knows how long, 6-7 years, whatever it was. Because of his playoff run in 2019, he had great numbers through that. No one on that line showed up. There was no one on the fourth line showed up. I thought the fourth line was probably, aside from the first line with Bergeron and Marchand playing at home, I thought the fourth line was probably the second best line and by far the most consistent throughout the playoff series. They played physical. They got scoring chances. They drove to the net. They played responsible defense. You didn't see that from really any other line. Even the top line, the Bergeron line, there were some defensive liabilities that were kind of glaring throughout the series. You can't be doing that, especially when you have two Selke nominees on that line, being Marchand and Bergeron, or Selke vote getters. Probably the best defensive centerman of all time, and one of the best defensive wingers in the entire NHL. You can't have that happen to you. And DeBrusk, he plays well on defense. He hustles back. He's a speed guy. He can be in the defensive zone when he needs to be. It's not like DeBrusk was playing bad defense or the reason that line was doing poorly on defense. It's bad passes. It's bad rotation when the D-man would drive into the offensive zone. There was no forward necessarily being back on defense every time, leading to a few breakaways. You got McAvoy at the point trying to make a pass, and it's a bad pass. It gets intercepted. It's a breakaway for the Hurricanes. There was a lot of that. The goaltending from Boston was decent. You have Ullmark played all right. I don't think he played poorly. I don't think he played bad. You would have liked to see a few more of those pucks that went on the net get saved, but at the same time, they would have to be highlight reel saves, and how many of those can you make? Swayman came in, played great, and the defense kind of tightened up when Swayman came in, but at the same time, Carolina's defense was a lot better. And the Bruins have always, throughout the entire season, had issues driving to the net and getting skill goals. A lot of them are deflections or a lot of them are goals from the defense, from the blue line or the outside. So again, the Bruins have been throughout the season one of the top teams in terms of getting shots on net, but the quality of those shots are so poor that none of them go in, which makes it so the other team's goalie looks a lot like they're having a much better game than they really are. And it's been that story with every team, with every opposing goalie throughout the season for the most part. I don't know what to tell you. It is what it is. Ranta played well. I'm already forgetting his name. Kochekov, the third line goalie, played well. There's no denying that, but at the same time, how often were they challenged by the Bruins? I'd say Ranta was challenged every once in a while. And Ranta came up and made those saves, and then that would be it for the Bruins for a bit. So I don't know what you do from there, but the way the Bruins played and the way the Bruins have played all season would indicate that they need some type of scoring. Their defense is okay. I don't want to say it's elite. I know a lot of the people on the NHL Network and ESPN and stuff have been saying it's an elite defensive team. I don't want to go that far. I don't think they're elite. I don't think they have... they have a first line now, a first line defensive pairing being Lindholm and McAvoy, which is great. Their second line, you have Carlo, who's great, but he has to have a good partner, and there hasn't been a guy to step up and be a second line defensive partner for Carlo. You have just a bunch of third line and depth defensemen. I mean, they're good, but like quality can be a little better than quantity sometimes, especially when you have 9 defensemen and 6 roster spots per game for a defenseman. Just saying. But going into next season, without a doubt, they need to figure out what they're doing with their defensive players. They got Josh Brown, who's literally their 9th defensive defenseman. They got him at the trade deadline. They traded Zach Senyshyn and a 5th round pick for Josh Brown and a 7th round pick for Brown to sit pretty much the rest of the season and most of the playoffs. Brown was an everyday guy in Ottawa, not so much in Boston, and now he's a UFA, so he's most likely gone because the Bruins still have too many defensemen even without him. So Don Sweeney, because apparently he's sticking around, which is highly disappointing, needs to address that situation on defense and needs to convert that into scoring and offense. You don't convert that number of defensive players into goals by getting offensive defensemen or two-way defensemen. It can help to an extent, but you need forwards who can score. That's their main job for the most part, is to score goals. So that they need to figure that out. Bergeron, we assume he's coming back. He's a Bruins guy. We don't know if he retires. Who is the Bruins' first line center? Is it Eric Haula? Is it Charlie Coyle? Like, what are we doing? So you need to figure that out. You have Bergeron and you have like Josh Norris and I think like Lazar are UFAs. So you can't really do much on the free market this offseason. You have to make a trade to fix your depth scoring issue. Unless Bergeron goes, then you can hope that you have enough money to sign a free agent to fill that void as a centerman that can score. But, with what teams have with some cap space, and it's going to be tricky, I'm not going to lie, because Bergeron's contract was a bit of a discount. Sub $7 million for one of the best two-way centermans of all time. It's a big void to fill. I don't know if that's going to happen. So the Bruins have a lot of work to do. I was kind of surprised the playoff series went to 7 games. I thought Carolina was going to wrap it up in 6, but they couldn't win in Boston. They didn't look good in Boston. I'm going to be honest. It's probably because they didn't get that stall line out to match up with Bergeron, and the Bergeron line was able to score. But that shouldn't be a deciding factor necessarily in 3 games out of 7. So, the Bruins have a lot of work to do. They're not a team built to make a playoff run. They haven't been all season. It should start with Don Sweeney being let out the door and probably Neely. As we know, it's not happening. Fingers crossed that Don Sweeney figures this out and redeems himself in some way, shape, or form. Because the current system the Bruins have, it's not sustainable. It's not a team that's going to get you to the Stanley Cup, and it's hard to watch as a Boston fan. So we'll see. Carolina deserved to win that series. Again, I'm a Bruins fan, and I'm a Bruins fan first, and it hurts to say that, but Carolina was the better team. They deserve to win. And I guess I'm just going to touch on the reffing because it hasn't been as conventional of at least the first round as it has been in prior years. A lot of penalties have been called this playoff series, and not a whole lot of matching minors. It hasn't been gritty playoffs, which for this series, the Bruins-Carolina series, it didn't really matter. Carolina might have the slight edge on special teams, but neither team is necessarily built to have a physical, gritty series anyway. But the reffing league-wide, it's been kind of questionable. I haven't seen necessarily one series where the reffing is, I don't know what the word is. I have no idea what the word is. Swaying, calling more penalties for one team or being very biased and trying to help the team win. I think for the most part, the penalties have been pretty equal across the board, but the quality of penalties has been questionable. A lot of big non-calls, a lot of missed calls that were blatant, high number of very questionable calls, and this is the reason I'm bringing this up is because it was prominent in the Bruins Hurricane series. It was very prominent for multiple games throughout the series. I'm a big advocate for keeping the same refs throughout the whole series rather than rotating them. But that's a conversation for a different time. I'm not going to dive into it, but yeah. All right, we're looking towards 2023 in Boston. So Carolina is not looking that far ahead right now. They're looking to make a run. We'll see if they can get it done against New York. We'll see. The winner plays Tampa in the Eastern Conference Final or Championship, and the winner of that goes to Stanley Cup. So Carolina wins. They're in the Final Four, and hey, I don't know. Kind of rooting for Carolina. I'm rooting for Igor Shesterkin in New York, but I like Carolina. I also, as a side note, I do want to touch on the Tony DeAngelo thing. Tony DeAngelo, the first few games throughout the series, his emotions were high. He was leaving a lot of the emotions on the ice, which isn't what you want to see if you're Carolina. But as the series progressed, he really checked himself substantially, and was not. I mean, he's going to talk, as is Brad Marchand. They're going to say things, but he wasn't taking bad penalties because of his emotions later on in the series, which you respect. I'm personally not a Tony DeAngelo fan. I don't cheer for him. I don't root for him. He's probably my least favorite Carolina Hurricanes player, if I'm going to be honest. But there's no denying he's very skilled. He's very talented. He knows how to pass the puck. He's really not that bad defensively. I wouldn't say he's elite defensively, but when you're on a line pairing with someone like Slavin, you don't need to be elite defensively because Slavin I would consider to be elite. So that's kind of my take on Tony DeAngelo. Yeah, I don't like him. I haven't liked him when he first came into the league. There's a lot of background noise and unnecessary stuff that happens behind the scenes with him that he just needs his emotions checked. So hopefully this is a turning point for him. Again, wasn't all that responsible with his emotions in the beginning of the series, but he turned it around a bit, and as a Bruins fan, I gotta say I respect that quite a bit. I'm sure we'll still be booing him whenever he touches the puck throughout next season, but that's just part of the fun. I'm sure Canes fans will boo Marchand whenever Marshy touches the puck next season too. So it's all in good fun. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it, and take care. If you got any questions or comments, though, leave in the comments. Let's talk about it. All right.